Hi. So the first couple of minutes of this video are a little bit out of focus just because I thought I did it and I was playing around with the settings on my camera and it was on autofocus and it just was not focusing on me. It's not horrifically blurry, but it's just a little bit, so just as a heads up. But then I do notice when I'm filming and I sort it out. But yeah, sorry. Sup lads? How's it going? Today I'm going to talk about the books / comic books that I read in January, and I don't know why that intro was so weird, but this is what we're doing. Literally on my radiator because it is so cold. Right, let's go. Okay, so the first book that I read in January was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. And the long and the small, totally, I will always get confused, but it's The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I finally got around to reading this book. I've had it on my shelf for a while now. I think it was probably around this time last year I ended up buying it, and I'm really glad I finally got around to picking it up. I gave this book 3.75 out of 5 stars, except on Goodreads where it's 3 out of 5 stars, because will they ever give us that point system that we all want? This is a sci-fi book and it is about Rosemary Harper, who joins the crew on the ship called the Wayfarer. She has just left behind a past which she doesn't want to tell anyone about or talk about, and her new crewmates do not know about her past. She's meeting these new people, they've got different adventures, they're going to different places, and lots of stuff unfolds throughout that. I did really like this book. I really liked the exploration of all the different species and where they came from and their backgrounds, and kind of them learning about each other and living with each other and exploring kind of each other's background and families and kind of home life, and it was really, really interesting. And also I really liked the Wayfarer crew. They were so good, all of them. They were so different and so varied, but they worked so well together and they all really came together, and I really, really liked that. I did enjoy it as a sci-fi book. I enjoyed kind of the different adventures that they went on, the different places and exploring all those different places. However, I did sometimes think this book was a little bit fast paced in the sense that they would suddenly be somewhere else, and sometimes I had to reread a little bit just to like double check and sort of re-center myself as to what was going on and where the characters were and what they were doing. So in that case I was a little bit confused sometimes because I was like, wait, what are they doing now? Where are they? It was sort of like quite jumpy from storyline to storyline and from bit to bit. It was almost like one scene hadn't properly finished but the next one had already started. So that was my only sort of issue with this book, is that I wasn't a massive fan of how that all worked, because sometimes it sort of just felt really fast. But I did really enjoy this book. I would definitely recommend it. It's a really good sci-fi novel. I thought it was written really well and I really enjoyed it. Then we have Georgia Peaches and Other Forbidden Fruit by J. Robin Brown, and this book is about Jo, who is out and proud, but when her dad gets married, that's not the word, I'm so tired. When her dad gets remarried, they move away from Atlanta to a town called Rome in Georgia, and he says to her, can you kind of keep it on the down low because we sort of want to settle in. And her new family is very religious. He himself is a pastor. I didn't realise that sort of storyline was going to be as prominent as it was, and he sort of pretty much tells her that she won't be able to go on her summer trip if she doesn't sort of go back into the closet, and she won't be allowed this radio show that she wants to do if that's the case. He sort of restricts her from being herself. Like, she even changes the way she dresses and the way she looks, and I wasn't a massive fan of that. I didn't realise it was going to be as restricting as it was. The things I did like about this book was the fact that there was like a really good discussion, because Jo is also religious, but she looks at religion and sexuality in a positive way and talks and doesn't see it as a negative thing, obviously, because she's not. So she's trying to start this radio show to talk about how it's not a negative thing and that it is a good thing and it's something that God would allow. And I really liked that positive relationship there, and how she's not ashamed of who she is and to be herself. Didn't like the fact that sometimes she felt a little bit childish, calling her dad's new wife 3, as in the 3rd person that he married, to her face as well. Like, just felt really childish. Her friend felt childish sometimes. Her friend from back home, I don't even remember her name, they had arguments sometimes that just felt so petty and just silly, and then her friend gets put in like prison for like fraud and she bails her out, and like, I don't know, it sort of, some bits seemed a little bit unrealistic and a little bit childish and kind of not they didn't flow very well. But then I did like that her and her stepmother's relationship did develop, which was good, and she started to really get on with her. There was a character, this is our BTB, who is Mary Carlson, Mary Carlson is the main love interest, her brother. He has an intellectual disability, and the way I was reading it, it didn't really sit right with me. He just felt like he was being written as a child or as a 17-year-old with an intellectual disability. And then when I read some reviews of this book, once I finished it, I found lots of other people were also complaining about that as well. Obviously that's not something which I myself have, so I cannot 100% say that it was an accurate portrayal or an inaccurate portrayal, but it just felt a little bit off. Also, I just wanted to add in that obviously all disabilities are different, but I just felt like it was really stereotypical to write him this way. And also so many of the other characters just made fun of him and were mean to him, to his face, behind his back, to his sister, and they were just laughing at him. He was turned into a complete joke, and at one point they even assumed that Jo must have some kind of disability, which is the only reason why she's hanging out with him. And I don't know, just the whole way that was written just didn't sit well with me. Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed with that one, to be honest. I was looking forward to reading it and I'd been wanting to pick it up for a while. I said about this in my most recent book haul, so it was a shame that it didn't kind of live up to my expectations of it. Then in January I reread Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. I don't really need to go into this book anymore at this point. It gets 5 stars. Have it, read it, please read it, please read this book. I love this book. It's my most favourite book of all time. At this point I think I'm going to be rereading it every month because it just gives me so much happiness and makes me calm and just chills me out. I have actually started annotating. This is my very first copy of this book, and I've started to annotate it. I started with saying all the different countries this book has been to with me and the dates that it was with me, those as well, because I take this book so many places and if I go away for too long I have to have it with me. Even though I've got an ebook copy, I like having this book because it was my first ever one and I just love this book so much. Please read it. Like, Ari and Dante are the actual loves of my life and I love them. Cool. Then I read Furthermore by Tahira Mafi. This is the second book of Tahira Mafi's that I've read in the past recent months. I never read the Shatter Me series as a teenager, even though I do have the first one now because I'm really starting to understand that I do really enjoy the way she writes books. So I have the first book in the series, which I am planning on reading, and then I will get the others if I really like it. I finally read this. I've had this for a very long time, so I'm glad I finally picked it up. It is a middle grade novel, but honestly I think anyone could read it. It's so good. And this book was about a girl called Alice who lives in a world which is absolutely brimming with colour. Everyone has it. There is colour magic. There's so many different things. But when she is born, she is completely white. Her hair is white, she is white, and she very much stands out in this world where everything is so colourful. Her dad then goes missing and no one has any idea where he is until someone that she used to go to school with has been given the task to find him, and he comes to her to get her help. He thinks her dad has gone to the land of Furthermore, which people don't even believe exists, and they try to get him back. I loved this book. I thought it was written so well. It's such a fun and unique way of writing a book with kind of the author kind of butting in and telling the reader little things and the little hints and little kind of, okay, just 2 points about this. Such a different style of writing, but it was so fun. It was so unique. I really liked it. I really enjoyed those little bits, and the whole story was just so well done and so thought out, and I really enjoyed it, so I would definitely recommend this one. Then also this month I read Sapiens, The Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. This book has been on my radar for a really long time. It was Waterstone's non-fiction book of the month a very long time ago, and I've been wanting to pick it up since then. There was lots of stuff in this that were relevant to my degrees, with kind of looking at evolution and the brain and development and that kind of thing, so it was definitely up my street. And then Chris Evans, you know Chris Evans, Captain America Chris Evans, who is just the best. Like, his Twitter is literally to tweet about his dog, Dodger. Did anybody else see the video where he had to choose which lion he was going to take to bed with him? Honestly, blessed that I got to witness that video. A blessing. Shouts at politicians that are wrong, so that's also good. And then tweets about this book all the time. That's literally why he's on Twitter, which is brilliant. Icons only. So he always talks about this book. He like tweeted it. So I was like, you know what? I'm finally gonna get it. I've been putting it off for ages. I'm gonna get it. It's so good. I could not put this book down. It's non-fiction, like I said, but it's so interesting. The way, kind of the detail that it goes into, but also it is still brief. It doesn't feel boring. It doesn't feel like you're reading dense information. It's good. It's well written. It's well executed. It's so interesting and so informative. And I absolutely love this book. I made so many notes, and it's very good, so I would 100% recommend this book as well, 5 stars. And then also in January I read the 4th and final book in the Stranger Things comics. So these comics focus on what happened to Will when he was in the Upside Down and everybody else was still in Hawkins trying to find him. This was such a good series. I'm going to do a full review of the whole series, but I just thought they did it so well, and it was so kind of interesting to see Will's side of things and how everything happened, and this was a really good finale for that. And then I also read the new Captain Marvel comics. So Marvel have been doing this thing where they're kind of not re-releasing comics, but doing a new wave of comics. So they have the Tony Stark Iron Man series, so it's not their origin story, it's not starting again, but it's a new series that you can pick up and read if you know their backstory, and then they kind of give you a little bit of an overview and then you can read them. And these are the new Captain Marvel ones. The first one came out in January and I absolutely loved it. The Captain Marvel movie comes out in next month now. It's February now, so it comes out next month, and I'm super excited to see it, and I'm glad that they're doing this and bringing them out for lots more characters. They have Spider-Man, they have the Avengers, they have Iron Man, they have Captain America, and I'm collecting this Captain America and the Iron Man one. And of course my main man Tony Stark is in this because he and Carol are BFFs. And I love that whole dynamic, like it's just wonderful. So yeah, I read this one as well, absolutely brilliant. So that is what I read in January. January was definitely a getting back into reading month for me. I wasn't necessarily bursting to read books, but I was reading more than I have been the last couple of months, and I'm really happy with reading 5 books, 2 comic books, and finally getting back into the swing of things. I've got my mojo back now. I'm getting back into the reading, getting back into all of it. But I'd love to know which books you read in January. Have you read any of these before? Did you happen to read any of these in January? What did you think of these books? What did you read this month? I would love to know. Thank you guys for watching. If you are new here, then I make videos a couple of times a week about books and fandomy stuff, so if you'd like to stick around and join us, then you can do that. I hope you guys are doing really well, and I will see you next time. Bye!